What's going on, guys? Today we are going to go over a Chemex tutorial and show you how to brew a Chemex the way we do it. So let's get to some of the stuff you're going to need to brew it. So basically what you're going to need is the Chemex, of course, the 3-fold filter, a timer, a scale, a couple of cups to serve it in, a kettle, and of course 42 grams of coffee ground at a medium fine grind setting. So essentially what makes the Chemex so unique is this filter here. It's got 4 folds and it's very heavy, so what this filter does is it filters out a lot of the heavy sediment in the coffee and gives you a really bright, crisp, clear cup of coffee that I really enjoy, and that's the reason I brew with the Chemex in all of these videos. Today we're going to be using our Ethiopia Banco Butiti. It's a natural Ethiopia. This coffee is very delicate, has a lot of notes of blueberries, some jasmine, and those sort of things. It gives off a nice floral aroma, and this coffee has been really good in the Chemex when we brewed it, so we're going to be brewing that today. Alright, so the first step that you want to do here is you want to take your 4-fold filter, and you want to put 1 fold on the opposite of the spout end and the 3 folds closest to the spout. You want the thicker folds to be on this side of the Chemex, so that way it doesn't collapse on the spout. I want to wash away any paper taste, anything that we don't really want. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put my 42 grams of coffee and dump it directly into the filter here. And I want to make sure that I flatten out the bed of coffee before I start brewing, because you always want a flat bed of coffee. Alright, so our water is just off boil, and we want our the water in the kettle to be just off of boil, because by the time this water hits the slurry, it's going to cool down quite a bit, so I've got it right where I need it. I'm going to start my timer, and once again, I got 42 grams of coffee, so I'm going to do a 100-gram bloom. It's going to sit for about 45 seconds. And I'm just doing slow concentric circles here in order to reach about 100 grams. Right there. I'm going to let this sit for 45 seconds, and that's going to give the coffee a chance to expand and make sure it's evenly saturated for the next part of the brew process. I'm going to throw in another 450 grams of water in slow concentric circles. And I'm going to try to avoid the edges of the filter so that way I don't get underneath there, because you can get a lot of paper taste from doing that. So I'm going to evenly saturate the coffee. I'm at 550, sorry. So what I want to do now is I want to allow the coffee to kind of settle, start to kind of brew down in the drawdown process, which is what the water is doing, is it's going through the even bed. And I'm going to wait about another 5 seconds here or so, and I'm going to pour in the final 150 grams to make an even 700 grams of water. This is Alex. Alex Alvarez is not a barista here at Vertigo, but has taken an active interest in coffee and what we do around here. So he's also been a friend of mine since we were about 12 or 13 years old, so he's been around for a while. Been around. So yeah, we're going to try some of this coffee now. Basically, what we're tasting is exactly what we want to taste. The Chemex has a really good knack of cleaning up the coffee and highlighting the notes that we see and the notes that we know are present in the coffee. Like, for example, this coffee has a lot of notes of blueberry, jasmine. It's very floral. It's not very citrusy, and it's a little bit more syrupy, so it has kind of a nice medium body. You can brew a pretty good amount, so if you have people to share with.
Somebody like me who's not so experienced, right?
Yeah.
Tell me just the general differences between a Chemex and a standard brewing setup someone's got at their house for, you know, the instant pot of coffee. You got a little bit of fruitiness.
Yeah, you can taste the fruit.
Some serious flavor. Where
yeah.
It's like,
it's really helpful to bring out those notes, and it's not the hardest brew method out there to use. But the one thing that the Chemex is, it's a little bit takes a little bit of time to get used to knowing what you need to do and like finding your grind setting. And the reason that we do this type of brew method here is, as I mentioned before, is you can do what we did here, which I consider a double batch, which is 700 grams of water to 42 grams of coffee. And what that means is that that ratio is essentially for every 1 part of coffee, there's 16.5 parts of water. And that's a typical ratio when doing these manual brew methods. Anywhere from 1 to 13, which is really kind of muddy, which I've done in this Chemex, doesn't come out as good as a 1 to 16 ratio. And you can brew a lot of coffee in these, but you can brew basically 2 cups of coffee, which is essentially what we brewed here. All right, so that was our Chemex brew tutorial. If you guys have any questions on how I did this today, you can always message me, or you can always comment below on YouTube. If you want to send us coffee to brew and talk about, please email me at ejamesmorris@gmail.com, and you can find that down below in the description. So thank you very much. Alex here. Once again, drink more coffee. Oh yes.